Hello everybody and welcome. I am Visage and today we're going to be looking at the first video in a new series I've been working on called the Almost Meta. Now, the idea of this is that we examine the meta that has developed in the pro player at a particular time and we figure out why that is and what champions specifically are dominating that. Are there any common features shared between them? Are there any play styles that we're seeing over and over from these different champions? After we've done that, we are going to look at a champion that isn't in the meta and have a bit of a speculation as to why that is. Look at any features they have that do fit into the current meta gameplay, any features that are unique to that champion they bring to the table that would be useful in the current meta, and what holds them back from making that top tier. Now, we are going to be focusing primarily on one role at a time to make it easier to dissect and look at, and we are going to be focusing mainly on EU as our region, because trying to look at the different metas from all the regions at once would be a bit of a nightmare, so I'm trying to avoid that where possible. But the video isn't supposed to be taken completely seriously. You know, it's not supposed to be an actual guide to outlying picks you might see at the next tournament or in the next few weeks kind of thing. It is a bit of fun, hopefully have some information in there for you as well, but mainly, a bit of fun. Anyway, all that being said, let's move on to our first actual episode, which of course has to focus in on our MSI mid laners. Here we have it then, the four champions who, in my opinion, have been the most influential on the mid lane meta so far for our MSI. We have Ryze, Nautilus, Akali and Sylas, but before we look at them, let's briefly go over the overall meta of the game right now. So right now, the three things that are really defining the whole meta are mobility, both on champions themselves in lane and around that map as a whole. Flexibility in champions' options to be moved to different lanes as drafts evolve, and aggression, with the fastest international game in history occurring this year between Invictus Gaming and SKT, clocking in at just 16 minutes and 1 second. With these three features being so prominent, we've seen a rise in champions with strong first or second item power spikes, lane dominant champions that can bully their opponents and snowball leads, and mobile champions that can outplay their opponents, roam first, or impact other lanes with global ultimates or teleport plays. Now, looking back to mid lane, the first thing to discuss is these champions' flexibility, and all of them have been seen playing mid as well as elsewhere. Ryze, Akali and Sylas have ventured up to the top lane, while Nautilus has returned to his more traditional supporting role as well. As mentioned, flex picks are a huge part of the current meta and have been for much of the spring split as well, with the likes of Jarvan, Irelia, Jace and Aatrox being some other examples, so it's not really a surprise to see the mid lane influenced by this in turn. Each of these champions that are shown here are extremely strong in their own right, but they also have the ability to be moved around the map in response to the opponent's draft, keeping them guessing, which is a massive benefit. Now, the second feature of all of these champions is that they all share a AP damage output. And while being AP doesn't secure their place in the meta by itself, it does allow teams to opt into the early game aggressive AD junglers, which is something we've been seeing a lot of recently. The meta focusing so much on aggressive players means these AD early game junglers are very prominent. So having a mid lane with AP damage allows them to be picked and strengthens the team as a whole. Seeing as we've got these basics out of the way now, let's dive into what makes each of these champions in particular so influential. Master of wave control, easily able to riptide his way through them to push his lane or clear them out from under tower, generating more priority and putting further pressure onto his opponents. Now we've talked about our first pair of champions, let's take a look over to our second set and the other style of play present right now. here we have the other side of the current meta's coin. The fast, the furious, the flashy mobile assassins and fighters. Now, these two I'll cover a bit more generally because they typically do the same overarching job, and that is to kill their opponents. More specifically, the squishy backline threats such as the enemy ADC or mage. These champions have plenty of tools to achieve this, both featuring a dash to help with positioning and gap closing, a stun to lock their targets in place, insane amounts of burst damage to quickly blow up a single target, and finally an execute. Just to be sure, you know? We've all had those games ourselves, the ones where the enemy assassin gets ahead and it feels like you can't go anywhere without being taken out in the blink of an eye, and that is exactly what this side of the meta is all about. Akali and Sylas are best suited to the 1v1 situation in lane where they can get a lead over their opponents and then look to use their mobility and high damage to pressure other lanes, diving the enemy's bot lane to shut them out of the game, pressuring the enemy top laner to unlock your own onto the map earlier, and then when it comes to team fights, these guys will be looking for an aggressive flank in order to dive in and secure those vital kills, playing right into the early game aggressive style as the whole meta is at the minute. As we can see then, there are two styles of champions in the current mid lane meta. Those that provide a lot for their team with easy gank setups and wave control, and those that snowball and carry themselves through mobility and being able to remove priority targets. Our mystery champion falls more into the first of the two categories than the second, and now it's time to unveil who our almost meta champion for today is. Someone who shares features we've talked about with our current meta picks, as well as bringing their own to the table. Today, your almost meta champion will be Twisted Fate! So, I know what you're all thinking. How does Twisted Fate possibly come close to the current meta picks? Well, in terms of the Akali and Sylas style of play, he doesn't. Like, at all. But if we look at the Ryze and Nautilus combination, he does share two of the three aspects that we talked about. The ability to set up ganks, and good minion wave control. With the access to his pick a card gold card, he does have a guaranteed stun that is very easy to land due to it being on the next auto attack. And it provides great opportunity for the jungler to follow up on. His wave control is also very good because the red card from a pick a card does area damage around its target, able to kill all of the backward line of caster minions in one hit. As well as the range on his wild cards being quite long, it allows him to farm safely if he is being threatened under turret. So they're two of the main strengths of Twisted Fate that tie in with the current meta, but he also has his own unique strengths as well. Let's talk about the passive first. Now, we all know how important being ahead of your opposition is, and in pro play, the difference of a couple of minions here and there can be absolutely huge, and we've already seen entire metas revolve around kleptomancy, with picks such as the Ezreal and the Gangplank being very prominent. Why then has Twisted Fate's loaded dice been overlooked? Every time he kills a minion, he rolls a dice and gains so much extra gold, averaging out at about 4 gold a minion. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a huge or game-breaking amount of gold, but to put it into perspective, this means that if Twisted Fate goes even with his opposing laner, he will be 200 gold ahead at 50 CS. He will be 400 gold at 100 CS, and that advantage just keeps building up. Now, that gold can be turned into extra damage, earlier boots, more survivability, or to flood the river with any control wards, trying to spot out the enemy jungler and provide more safety for him. All of these small differences that lanes can be won and lost around in pro play. The second thing that needs to be discussed is his ultimate destiny. Now, we've already mentioned in pro play what a huge emphasis there is on map mobility and vision. Two vital assets when you're attempting to go for the Baron, go for the Drakes, set up ganks, defend against ganks, all of these number of players that you might want to try and pick. Well, what if I reminded you that Twisted Fate's Ultimate provides both of those things in one nice little package? With a click of a button, he is able to reveal every enemy champion on the map, and then teleport up to half the map away without the need of wards in preparation for him. The implications of this are absolutely huge, because once he reaches level 6, any fight on the map can be turned with a numbers advantage in your favour. The Baron can be checked on, and so many plays and information can be gained just by having the Twisted Fate ultimate there. So between his passive and his ultimate, as well as the two ways he fits into the current meta already, there are so many options that Twisted Fate brings to a team, almost too good to miss. Almost. Because, as we've seen, and as we've said, the point of this video, they are being missed. Twisted Fate is not being played in the current meta. So why is that? Well, let's take a look. To begin with, he lacks the final part of the puzzle that Ryze and Nautilus had, the survivability. He doesn't have any dashes, he doesn't have any speed boosts, he doesn't have any shields in his kit as it stands. So anybody that is trying to engage on him, just dive onto his face, has pretty much a free reign with only the gold card to try and stop them. Now, Ryze only had the Rune Prison as a form of CC, but for him it's a point and click, whereas Twisted Fate has to cycle through the different cards. This gives the enemies time to close that distance and burst him down, and it also gives the possibility for a misclick, missing that vital gold card and denying any chance of escape whatsoever. Aside from that, he has lower base stats than Ryze in general, who you'd hardly consider as a tanky champion in the first place, meaning that constant harass or anybody looking to try and burst him down will be able to kill him, or at the very least make him back, losing out on that gold and experience. Secondly, he's held back from greatness because his main damage tools, the pick a card options, are very single target based, with even the red card, which does the AoE, being difficult to hit in teamfights. Whereas this isn't a problem for the likes of Akali and Sylas, they have the mobility to get in and out of a fight and the burst damage to deliver that killing blow before it's too much of a problem. But Twisted Fate has neither of these. In my opinion though, the biggest drawback for Twisted Fate is his telegraphed playstyle. It is very obvious that he will only really move aggressively when he has that gold card available. It will only look for ganks and to make big movements around the map when he has the ultimate available to outflank you. And at level 1, that's a 3-minute cooldown. At level 3, it drops to 2 minutes. That is a massive window of opportunity that teams can look to play around and exploit, while Twisted Fate lacks any real meaningful way of engaging teamfights. Well everybody, that has been the first episode in the Almost Meta series. I do hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will look to do one of these maybe every patch or every other patch of the Pro Play season, something along that kind of schedule. I do hope you've enjoyed it, found it interesting, and any comments you have or ways to improve, please do let me know below. I do really appreciate it, or get in touch on Twitter as well. The link to that is in the description. Until next time, I have been Visage, and goodbye.